what they have is you want to get in the playoff, man. Like,
right.
I mean, this Clemson schedule, you take Georgia out. They play Georgia, and they got App State, not easy, but App State. NC State's going to be a really nice game. They got Stanford, ought to beat them. They get the Florida State game. Then they're at Wake, Virginia, Louisville, we said, tricky team, at Virginia Tech, at Pitt, Citadel, and you finish with South Carolina. Like, it's a pretty nice path for Clemson to get into this playoff. It's a pretty nice path to be 10-2, and you're the one who scheduled Georgia. You can go schedule Georgia because you know you got getting in the playoff. I think what we're going to find out is what is the financial value of that. Hosting a game. If you host, maybe they win the league. How much more donations? How much more sales? What do you get out of being in the playoff? And yeah, it's not guaranteed money, right? Just in simple terms, I know it's 50. I got to bridge a $20 million gap. Well, one way to bridge that gap is go to the playoff like 5 years out of 6. You'll bridge it a little. You may not get all the way there, but your team's winning. You're exciting. You're driving donations. You're in these big games. All the stuff goes up. And can the ACC show, hey, look, yeah, maybe there's a little more money in the Big 12 if you go there. Or maybe is there something competitively with this playoff berth that can help that out, Ross? Or are we past that point at this point?
I think that when you look at conference realignment the last few years, we've seen so many schools take the money instead of the easier route to the playoff. I just think of USC and UCLA's decision, as well as Washington and Oregon's decision, and Oklahoma's decision, in Texas as well. Look at all these programs and their decision. It was about money and not an easier route to the playoffs. So that doesn't seem to be important to
it's not the
to
trend
these
now, but could it reverse?
Yeah. Could it reverse? Right. I don't see that, right? Nothing. I don't sense that. I don't sense Florida State and Clemson reversing course unless they literally have nowhere else to go, which could be the case, right? We've talked about quite a bit that there doesn't seem to be interest in where they want to go in them. And so if they were to reverse course in some way, it probably would be because of the lack of a landing spot and not some chase for the playoff, because money seems to still be winning out, right, in every capacity, which for your fan base and your fans, I don't know, doesn't seem right. Your fans and your fan base want to win, and they want championships, and an easier route to the playoff is probably the route you should take. But we're obviously in this race for cash.
I mean, would you rather be South Carolina or Clemson?
Yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
I'd much rather be Clemson. But Dan, see, now you're talking crazy here, talking about what the fans may like and winning and things like that, when you should be talking about revenue, grants of rights.
I know.
Come on, that's what's the fabric of college football, Dan. Baby. No,
here I am talking about football.
Yeah, we're going to get this. I think this is a major rubber meets the road season, and will be a rubber meets the road era here that we're entering into, with how quote unquote costly or cost versus benefit these realignment moves are, because we're going to see now Oklahoma is picked 8th in the SEC. They may not end up 8th. They may end up being good enough to get in the playoff. They're never picked 8th. They've never been. I mean, I posed the question on Twitter, and somebody found like a Sporting News 1997 where they were picked 8th in the Big 12. But like, this doesn't happen for them. And so you are trading the chance to own a league for the chance to make more money. We'll see how that goes. Texas A&M played in Big 12 championship games, hadn't played in one in the SEC. since they moved there.
Nebraska.
But we're going to, Nebraska, absolutely. Nebraska used to be a contender. We'll see what happens to the likes of Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA when they're in now with with Ohio State and Michigan.
I always go back to the quote that Bob Bowlesby, former Big 12 commissioner, gave me earlier this spring. The traditional winners will turn into traditional losers in their new league. And you can imagine probably who he was more pointing to as he was the Big 12 conference commissioner for a while. But I'm sure he was probably referring to a lot of programs, some of the same ones that we're discussing.
It's weird. Look, we've discussed this a lot, but it's like, as a fan, what are you looking for out of your football program? What is your athletic department looking for? Like, what does your school want out of, like, you want to win games.
Yeah.
And you want to have fun games. Now, I understand the schedule might get more exciting because more really good teams are coming in, but if you're losing those games, you look at the NFL, and when teams aren't winning, even the NFL, they stop coming to the games. Or the NBA, if your team's down, all of a sudden it's easy to get tickets. When they're winning, everyone's all excited. It's winning is what you want to do. And playing ACC football is pretty fun. There's enough good, exciting games, and you're in your region and all that. And I don't, one of the best things they ever did in college athletics, or the best tricks they pulled, was getting fans to pull for revenue. And I was sitting with some guys the other day. We were talking about Notre Dame and how Notre Dame's got to join the Big Ten, or the argument. No one was advocating it because look, Purdue makes more money on TV and Indiana makes more money on TV, and you go, who the hell cares? Notre Dame feels like it's Notre Dame. Like, and have you ever been to Notre Dame and said, boy, if only they could get some money? This place is rich as hell. They got a golden dome. They literally have golden dome. Their buildings are made of gold. If you're a fan of Notre Dame, you're not going, where's that revenue check? But somehow they've gotten, I got to get that revenue, because it's always the existential threat that's coming. You're not going to be able to compete. We're not going to be able to compete unless you do what the administrator tells you. And in the end, I don't know, man. Florida State's a good place to go play football. And they're going to have enough money for football. It's easier to raise that gap money, or enough to be competitive, than it is to go jump into a league where you all of a sudden have to, you're staring up at 9 or 10 teams that are equal to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Florida State and Clemson both, but Florida State to me is the most interesting one because they've been on the forefront of agitating for this, and they have been able to win national championships in the ACC, and I guess you can look ahead and doom and gloom yourself into believing it's just not going to be possible again. But to your point, Dan, there's a lot of good football players around that area who would like to play near home so their families can come and see them in an 86,000 seat stadium or whatever Doak Campbell is, and get all the attention, and the NFL scouts can absolutely find you. I have a hard time buying this. Now, there's been very smart people on Twitter who have assured me that Florida State has smart people who have a handshake agreement that they're going somewhere. SEC, Big Ten, it's done. It's done. It's fine. We're going to be fine.
I wouldn't trust those handshakes, buddy. This is college sports.
Remember the gentleman's agreement?
The alliance.
Yeah.
It's a gentleman's agreement. Didn't need no pen to paper.
Florida, if Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt last year, how do we know that Florida State doesn't win the national championship last year?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The path was there for them, and it was a terrible break, and I feel bad for them, and I still think they probably should have gotten in over Alabama. But that's what it's a broken leg that if that doesn't happen, you can't blame Jim Phillips and the ACC like they did. Oh, he couldn't get in because of them. That was a specious argument, I thought.
Well, and how about this? If this is your team and you're in the SEC or you're in the Big Ten, which is where they want to go, and Jordan Travis breaks his leg, and you go to the SEC or Big Ten championship game, you are not winning that game.
No.
Right? They had to go to the third string QB, I think. It was a mess.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You are unlikely to beat Georgia or Michigan. So the dynamics change. I guess I understand Florida State's infuriation last year because it is okay. The system was broken and everyone tries to, it was a bad system. The 14 playoff was set up by people who didn't want to make a playoff. So they made a crap one. They didn't even think it through. They were dragged to that 14 playoff. And everyone said, how are you going to do this? It's 5 conferences and 4 spots. Like, raise your hand. First question. Oh, it'll work out. Well, it didn't work out. Right. But that isn't the case now. You're in. And one of the things I always argued on a big playoff with automatic bids is, could it provide that stability? I get they want out, and I get they're angry, and there's all this bitterness, and like there's lawsuits, and lawyers are arguing and it's going on. But I still think this league provides a tremendous opportunity and platform for these schools. You can be absolutely competitive. The strength of Florida State is not because of their conference. It's because of Florida State. We've all been there. It's terrific.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and like academically, the school's improving every year. Like, it's a great place to go to college, and it's a great place to play football. Clemson. So you can't tell me anywhere else is better than those places.